Looks like today we're going to make a Philly cheesesteak meatloaf. It looks good, lots of cheese, and let's get to it. So of course the first thing we're going to do is our prep work. We're going to take an onion, and I'm not sure if we're going to use half. I'm going to chop it all up. And this is the cool way of peeling your onions. Chop them in half. The outside skin comes right off. So we'll get these onions nice and chopped. Normally for a Philly cheesesteak, you're going to slice your onions in thin, long slices, but because it's a meatloaf, we're changing it up a little bit. And there you go, that's about 1.5 cups of onions. Next up, pepper. And of course the easy way to cut a pepper is upside down, because that way you end up with the seeds all in one nice thing to throw out, and then you have a little rinse off, and there you go, there's your peppers. Same thing as with the onions. We're not going to cut the pepper into long thin strips, which you would do for the sandwich. We're going to chop them up into small pieces, and once again because it's a meatloaf. And of course that's just a little over 2 cups of green peppers. Let's start some assembly. We'll get a bowl, make sure it's big enough, and I've got roughly 2 pounds of burger. If you want to make something smaller, be my guest, do 1 pound, just kind of half everything else. So there's our burger ready to go, and to that we are going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, and right there is 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and that right there is adobo seasoning, half a teaspoon. Let's make some, because I didn't have any, but I looked up how to make it. Okay, so we're going to make more than enough seasoning for what we need, but I'll save it. To this, we need 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of paprika, come on, 2 teaspoons of pepper, this is 1.5-ish teaspoons of onion powder, lumpy onion powder of course, 1.5 teaspoons of dried oregano, 1.5 teaspoons of cumin, teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of chili powder. And that's it. Now we're just going to mix all that together. Of course, this is 6 or 7 tablespoons worth of seasoning, and I'll save what I don't use for another time. Okay, so back to our 1/2 teaspoon seasoning of adobo. We also need just over 1 cup-ish of my homemade breadcrumbs. And then we mix her all together. So I decided I wanted to throw a little more in. I was going to use what I had left, but that was way too much. So I kind of stopped and saved it. This is 2 eggs to hold it together. I figure usually an egg a pound does the trick. There we go. Everything's pretty well ready. Now we got to go over to our pan. Preheated pan, medium high. And about 1.5 cups of both the onions and the peppers, and we're going to sweat them down until they get nice and somewhat mushy. And after a few minutes, we're going to take that off and put them into a bowl. We're going to let it cool down, because as you can see, it is steaming. And I do like my fingers, so I'd rather be a little cool, so about 5 minutes I gave it. It's cool enough to work with. We're going to dump all but maybe a half a cup into the mixture because I'm going to use that a little later on. And now we got to combine all that together. And halfway through I'm going to add, that is 3/4 of a cup of milk. You know, I've never made a meatloaf with milk in it before, so this is a first for me. I didn't know how well it would even mix together, but you know what, look, seemed to work out okay. Let's build our meatloaf. So on a nice baking sheet, parchment paper, a little more than half of the mixture we just made, and I'm going to form it into a loaf. You could use a meatloaf pan, but I stopped using them years ago because they were a pain to clean. Well, here we go. The last of the onion and green pepper mixture that we cooked up on the stove. We're going to put a layer of that in, and to that some provolone cheese. This is where the cheese comes in. I got thinking, you know, and then of course the rest of it we topped off. I could have made a second layer. I think that would have worked out pretty cool too, but this still worked out. We just kind of make sure everything's all connected and all covered up. Voila, a nice loaf, and that's going to go in the oven 350 for about 25 minutes-ish. And here it is out, and I'm just checking out. You can see it's starting to cook on the bottom. So I don't think it's quite ready. I put in for another 10. Now you can see it has baked a little better. Now we're going to put more cheese on. You thought I was done with the cheese. Well, you were wrong. You can't have enough cheese. That's why I said I kind of got thinking that 3 layers might have worked better, but that's okay. So this is at about the 35 to 40 minute mark. And this is going to go in long enough just to melt, about 10 minutes. And there we are right there. There is your Philly cheesesteak meatloaf. So we're going to cut into it. Now about the only issue I had cutting into it, as you can see here, was because a lot of the cheese melted off into the side, and that's not a bad thing. It just became a little hard to actually cut it. So I struggled a little bit having to cut the meat out, but it still worked out. Tasted great, and there you go. There is a Philly cheesesteak meatloaf with some mashed potatoes and peas. You can't go wrong. Well, there you have it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, give me a like below. Feel free to share this in any of my other videos. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll let you know anytime I upload a video. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.